Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Peter Lundstrom, chairing the Environment Committee for December 13th, 2022. We'll get this meeting started. We've got a great agenda before us of 6 different items. So without objection, we can move forward with the agenda, and we have the approval of the minutes from November 8th.
Move approval as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Carries. Nothing on our consent agenda this afternoon. And that takes us to our first agenda item in the non-consent business area, which is 2022-308, implementation of general permits for dental clinics. Ms. Nelson, this is when I read about this is I think one of our huge success stories, just the reduction of mercury over the years, which you're probably going to cover. But I think this has been in place for like 2 decades or something like that. And I think it's a great success, but tell us more.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Environment Committee. My name is Martina Nelson. I am the manager of the MCES's Industrial Waste and Pollution Prevention section. I am here today with Naum Bukingolts. He's a principal engineer and our dental program lead. And we are here to present to you business item 2022-308, which seeks to implement general permits for dental clinics in MCES's service area. This item will go to council on January 11th, 2023, pending your approval here today. So the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to remove the permitting exemption for dental clinics so that MCES can implement general permits to dental clinics in our service area that fall under EPA's dental rule, 40 CFR .441. All right, so back in the late 90s, MCES was facing more stringent mercury limits on our wastewater treatment plants. And we knew that mercury from dental clinics was a large contributing source. So in response, we formed a partnership with the Minnesota Dental Association in 1998 to study mercury loadings to our treatment plants. The study aimed to evaluate the effectiveness of installing amalgam separators at our dental clinics to reduce mercury loadings to our plants. The study was very successful and resulted in a voluntary program that was established and approved by the Metropolitan Council in 2002. To participate in the program, dental clinics were required to do several things. The first was to install an approved amalgam separator with a removal efficiency of at least 99%. They were expected to operate and maintain that amalgam separator according to manufacturer specifications. They were also expected to follow best management practices for managing all of their dental waste. And then they were required to submit an annual certification statement to us each year. In return, the dental clinics were granted a variance from meeting our local limit for mercury, and they were exempted from being issued an industrial discharge permit and being required to sample and analyze their wastewater for mercury. So since 2002, we have been issuing and updating certificates of compliance every 5 years. And to date, this program has resulted in a 67% reduction in mercury loadings to our Metro plant. So MCES was not alone. Many other pretreatment programs across the country implemented their own successful dental amalgam reduction programs in the 2000s. So following that lead, EPA promulgated a federal dental rule in 2017. This rule required the installation of amalgam separators with a removal efficiency of at least 95% at general practices and endodontic clinics, which is a little bit lower than our requirement of 99%. This rule became final in 2017, and the clinics were then given 3 years to comply. So today, we have about 830 dental clinics that are enrolled in our program. And next year, 2023, marks another certificate renewal year. As our program has grown and evolved, we have found that periodic inspections are needed to ensure that dental clinics continue to properly operate and maintain their amalgam separator. We also continue to require that they submit a certification statement to us each year by June 30th. Over the past 20 years, it has been very challenging to get those statements from all of the dental clinics. Roughly 20% miss their deadline every year. Many of those are repeat offenders. So each year, we devote significant administrative resources to try to wrangle all those statements in the door. So to reduce that burden on our staff, we are proposing to develop and issue a general permit to our dental clinics, which will be accompanied by a certificate of compliance that they can still hang for display. General permits have been a very successful tool for MCES to manage wastewater from targeted industry types. An example would be for our microbrewery program. A general permit employs best management practices to minimize the impact of that industry type's wastewater on our collection system and our wastewater treatment plants. And in exchange, industries on general permit are not required to sample and analyze their wastewater, so that lowers the regulatory and administrative burden for both them and us. Additionally, we would like to use the general permit as a mechanism because it allows for a clear enforcement pathway when that annual certification statement is not submitted. So in this instance, a notice of violation with a $150 late fee would be assessed to a dental clinic, but only if they do not submit their annual certification statement on time. This will help us recover the cost of trying to get those statements in each year. No other changes are proposed. We are not proposing an annual permit fee. We feel that just the cost alone for that NOV to get that annual certification statement in is enough to cover the cost of the program. Dental clinics will retain that variance from needing to meet our local limit for mercury, and they will not be required to sample or analyze their wastewater. And we have met with the Minnesota Dental Association to discuss this proposal, and they are supportive of it. We listened to their input, and they have offered to help us communicate this change to their membership. So with that, I am proposing that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to remove the permitting exemption for dental clinics so that we can implement general permits to dental clinics in our surface area that fall under EPA's dental rule. And with that, Naum and I are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm interested in whether or not there might be any, you think there might be any merit in some sort of a certificate or seal that clinics could post each year with the year noted on it that they've completed this and they're a part of this program. As the baby boomers age and the younger generation comes along, and there's such a big commitment toward water quality and water safety, and it seems like this might be something that could help promote it. If patients going into a clinic know that their clinic is a part of this program, it could help spread the word and kind of put some pressure on. So just a suggestion. I do have a question. Is this being done elsewhere in Minnesota, either at a county or regional level? Do you know?
So, Mr. Chair,
Please.
Environment Committee members, to address your comment, we do issue them a certificate
Okay.
of compliance. It's good for 5 years, and a lot of them do display it
Okay.
in their lobby. So they have that option.
Okay.
To answer your question, I don't know specifics, but when in meeting with MDA, the Minnesota Dental Association, they had a lead dentist, I forget his name, he was from Hibbing, but I think Duluth issues permits. Okay. So, and that would make sense because of the mercury limitations with their plants discharging into Lake Superior. So I think other parts of Minnesota are more stringent than we have been in the past.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I would think it would be good to work with the communications department and do some PR on this, because I think it's a really laudable program, and I think folks need to know more about it. So to whatever extent that's possible, I don't expect it to be done before the end of the year, but it would be a great thing to acknowledge the Dental Association's work on this as well as the council's role in it. So thank you very much. This is great.
I know I'd feel pretty good about going into the dentist, waiting to get called. Rarely have I ever said, I know I would feel good going into the dentist. But waiting in the lobby and seeing a certificate that showed that my dentist or that this office believed in getting mercury out of our water would be a nice thing. Questions, comments, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm amazed that it took us more than 20 years to have to put a fine on for not turning in the certification. But it's a great program. My dentist likes it. We talked about it the last time I was in there because he had just had an inspection. But yeah, if that's what we need to do to get the slow people to not be slow, then that's what we need to do.
Seems like $150 is just enough to send that message. It's not overbearing, but it'll get their attention, I would think. And help recoup our costs, which we have real costs to continually dog these slowpokes. Yeah. Please.
Mr. Chair, in addition to the slowpokes, do we know what the other sources of the mercury are?
To our treatment plants?
Right.
Well, I think in general, mercury to our treatment plants has gone down as vaccines have, I mean, there's mercury thimerosal in vaccines, broken thermometers, I think things that go digital. I mean, I will say that, not to open like a can of worms, but there was a period earlier this year where we saw an uptick in mercury violations in just of our industries. And I think part of that is supply chain issues. If you get cheap caustic made outside of the United States, it tends to have more mercury contamination because it's made with the mercury cell caustic method. So we kind of have seen some variations with that.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Rule.
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carries. Thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
And that takes us to our second item, 2022-318, Joint Powers Agreement with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency for Watershed Outlet Monitoring Program. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This may look familiar. I was here back in March of 2022 for an amendment that extended this through the end of this year. So some of this may be a refresher, but I will go through if this advances. There we go. So a little bit of history of this joint powers agreement with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency is that it started back in 1998. We had various partners, and it was from a different funding source, or some of the program is with a different funding source. So there you see WAMP 1, as we call it. We call this funding from the Pollution Control Agency WAMP 2. So that's some of the acronyms you may have heard. And so this is only a portion of our stream monitoring program, and this funding has been coming through the Clean Water Fund since 2007 via the MPCA, the Pollution Control Agency. And we use this data in regional assessments. We have a lot of partners that use this data locally, whether they're a watershed district or a community. And there's a few statewide programs that look at whether waters are impaired or for pollutant load programs. So this data gets used by a lot of different folks. Quick background, again, this is where some of the refreshing might come in. So back in 2018 is when we originally went into a joint powers agreement with the Pollution Control Agency for $300,000 for a 2-year period. This was then extended for 2020 to 2021 with an additional 2 years. There was a little bit of a date difference there. It was expanded or extended through March 31st, and so that's why I came back in March. And we extended it for 9 months with an amendment. And the state has a 5-year maximum agreement duration. And so that hit that 5 years. And so today I'm here to talk about a new 2-year joint powers agreement for 2023-2024, which would add up to $250,000 for that 2-year period This would fund 5 stations in our stream program. And so proposed action here, that we get authorization for the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 22G002 with the MPCA for a new joint powers agreement that will run through 2023 and 2024 and accept clean water funds. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions for Mr. Henley? This would fund 5 stations, okay. Does the MPCA fund the other stations that we have, the other parts of our monitoring program?
Mr. Chair, committee, no, the rest of our stream monitoring program, which is around 15 additional stations, is funded through MCS funds. We're looking at non-point inputs to our receiving waters, so these are tributaries to the Mississippi, Minnesota, and St. Croix rivers, kind of throughout the region, and so this is a portion of that funding for that monitoring program.
Great. Other questions?
I was just
Member
gonna make a motion to approve the item, but,
Second?
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving right along, 2022-309, the Hastings Wastewater Treatment Plant Owner's Agent. Ms. Hutter, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Environment Committee. This afternoon, I would like to share with you the owner's agent contract for design, build, delivery of the new Hastings wastewater treatment plant before requesting authorization to negotiate and execute that contract. This contract will provide, the facility plan was adopted by council on February 23rd of this year, and it recommended relocation of the Hastings wastewater treatment plant to MCES-owned property about 2.5 miles southeast of the existing plant site. This project will provide MCES with the ability to expand to support growth and changes in regulatory requirements within the 30-year planning period. The work of the facility plan was generally grouped into 3 categories. There was a new lift station and conveyance system, a new wastewater treatment plant and outfall, and decommissioning of the existing plant. The owner's agent contract, which we're here to discuss this afternoon, focuses specifically on support for the wastewater treatment plant. The other work just mentioned, including that outfall, will be delivered under separate contract, and we are looking forward to sharing more information about that work with you next year. This contract will provide support for the plant in the following areas. We have environmental site work and permitting. We have supplemental planning activities such as reclaimed water market analysis. We have preliminary engineering evaluations, which will be work that builds upon the work of the facility plan, and it really helps us refine selection of equipment and treatment processes for that new plant. And then we'll also have some design build project delivery support, such as development of the request for proposal for the design build contract, which is facilitates construction of the facility. There will also be work like field inspection and commissioning services that support construction of that new plant. The request for proposals was issued on August 2nd of this year. The pre-proposal meeting was hosted by council staff on August 9th, and that meeting really outlined solicitation requirements and provided an opportunity for potential proposers to hear about the work of this contract and ask questions to clarify their understanding. The Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity assigned a Metropolitan Council underutilized business goal of 13% for this contract. 3 proposals were received on September 22nd of this year. One from Black & Veatch Corporation at $9,998,952. One from Brown & Caldwell at $10,855,144. And one from HDR at $12,288,249. Price was not the only criteria that was considered by the evaluation panel for award of this contract. The evaluation panel consisted of 4 environmental services staff, 1 external stakeholder, and 1 technical advisor. The criteria that was used to evaluate the proposals were the quality of the proposal, the experience of the proposer, the qualifications of the proposer, and the price of the proposal. The Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity determined that Black & Veatch Corporation met the MCUB requirements for the solicitation, and the evaluation panel reached consensus that the proposal submitted by Black & Veatch Corporation provides the best overall value to the council. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute Contract 22P 270 with Black & Veatch Corporation to provide owner's agent services for design, build, delivery of the new Hastings wastewater treatment plant in an amount not to exceed $9,998,952. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Ms. Hutter? It's this type of work that helps hone in what exactly we need for this new treatment plant, and then put all of that expertise into an RFP for design build purposes, and it just helps make us have a better product at the end, hopefully. That's the goal at least, right? Is there a motion? Yeah, or a question?
Just had a kind of a question. When we build a new plant, what's the capacity as far as growth on it? Then how much growth can it handle from once it's built and that then?
Mr. Chair, to answer your question, we projected out growth through 2050, which is the 30-year planning period. At this time, we're proposing to build that plant at 3 MGD, which is about half an MGD larger than the current facility. Excuse me, 3/4 of an MGD larger than the current facility. I don't have the population conversion with me in my head, but it does support the growth we expect to see in that region through 2050.
2050, okay, thank you.
Good question. Is there a motion?
Move approval?
And a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries. Item number 4, ratification of emergency declaration for Long Lake Interceptor Rehabilitation, Project 808862. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's good to see you again, sir. Committee members, my name is Tim Wedin. I'm Assistant Manager with Interceptor Engineering. I'm here to present to you Business Item 2022-317, Ratification of Emergency Declaration for Long Lake Interceptor Rehabilitation, Project 808862, Contract 21P008, Additional Pipe Debris Removal. We've had a few emergency declarations in the past, so I think most of you are aware of what the process is, what the purpose of an emergency declaration is. We're looking at addressing an emergency situation in which the health, safety, or welfare of the public or the safety of Metropolitan Council employees or facilities is compromised or potentially compromised and requires immediate action to correct. We follow our standard emergency declaration process where we identify the concern in the infrastructure. We determine determinations made that carrying out the competitive bidding process would delay the work needed to repair the facility. We work through our emergency declaration document to have that signed by the General Manager of Environmental Services, have that reviewed and authorized by the regional administrator, and then select a contractor and ratify that emergency declaration with council when the cost is over $100,000. A little bit of information about the project itself. There's a rehabilitation of an existing interceptor line on the south side of Long Lake in New Brighton. The project includes a removal of debris and pipe cleaning. During our work, it was determined that, or during the design, excuse me, let me back up, our staff and engineering went out and measured the depth of the debris in the system, got down into the manholes and tried to figure out how much debris we were dealing with while it was still under flow. Used that information as a part of our bidding documents and awarded the project. Once we started the project and activated the temporary conveyance, it was found that the depth of debris in the system was much greater than we had anticipated. So that was really going to require, that's going to require a lot of additional work by the contractor in order to ensure that that additional debris is managed and disposed of properly. Rather than delay the contractor by, by holding them up and waiting for, to work through a standard process, it was determined that it was better to issue an emergency declaration to keep them moving forward, preventing any delay costs, and get them to remove that material as planned. So with that, our proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council ratify the attached emergency declaration attached to the business item for additional pipe debris removal in Interceptor 8451. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Any questions for Mr. Wedin, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Clearly, it makes more sense just to get the job done rather than pack everything up and then come back and bid it again. What was the nature of the extra debris that they were finding?
A lot of the debris, or Mr. Chair, council members, a lot of the debris that they were finding as they were working through the pipe is sand, grit, rocks. That was primarily the nature of the debris that they were finding.
Did we figure out where that was coming from?
Mr. Chair and council members, there's a lot of different sources that may be coming from throughout the system. There may be access through manholes, access through other points in the pipe. There's a wide variety of locations where that debris could be coming from, and it just accumulates over time.
Yeah, is there anything about this particular location? I mean, could it be ameliorated in the future now that we'll have a new this is a cured-in-place project, if I recall correctly, right? So we'll have essentially a new pipe, or maybe a new pipe in some areas. Yeah, real new pipe. But yeah, to prevent this in the future.
Mr. Chair and council members, that's certainly part of what we'll be working on with this improvement. Certainly the new CIPP lining will provide a newer pipe and address a number of deficiencies in the system to help flow move more improved flow through the pipe, which will improve the ability for the wastewater to scour out the rocks and the debris and everything else in that pipe. I got word today that they did find a break in the pipe just upstream of this location, so they're fixing that as a part of that work. And so work like that is certainly going to address improving a lot of the debris accumulation in the pipe.
And what is the proper disposal of what must be a bunch? I mean, I don't even know how many cubic yards of sand and grit and muck that's been in a sanitary sewer line. You can't just, throw it to the side, right? You gotta properly dispose of this material. Like, where do you bring it?
Mr. Chair, that's correct. So it involves a lot of not only removal from the pipe, but also removal of the liquid, allowing that to decant back into the system so the liquid can continue to flow while you're retaining the solid material. And that solid material isn't disposed of at a landfill.
Wow.
Wow, okay, interesting. Yeah, please.
I'm glad they found that break. That was probably part of the source of the mess, so that it doesn't happen again.
Absolutely. Yeah, please.
Well, in addition to the break, I kind of have to wonder how much the more severe storms we're experiencing may contribute to something like this, the significant rains and such.
If there's not breaks in the pipe, then that shouldn't be in there.
That's true, but that's true.
It does go to the whole I&I thing, right?
that's
If
true.
there's inflow, it's water coming in, but also material that comes
Right.
with that too.
Most certainly.
And increased storms can contribute to that, I believe. Very good. Other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the item.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you very much. Now to our fifth item, that's 2022-335, same week item. This is project 819025, MnDOT Coordination change order authority increase. And Mr. Wedin is back. All right.
So long.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's been so long since I've seen you last. I'm here to present to you this evening, business item 2022-335, a same week item for project 819025, Trunk Highway 13 MnDOT coordination and a change order authority increase. There we are. A little bit of background on the project itself. The work involves Interceptor 8560, which is the force mains, that are connected to lift station 66 in the city of Savage. The project includes realignment of the force mains to avoid conflicts with a new entrance road for Trunk Highway 13 that MnDOT is working on currently. As the project continued, contractor ran into some supply chain challenges that delayed the delivery of the force main pipe, the new force main pipe that was being installed. And as such, they were delayed on their time to be able to put the pipe into the ground. To meet MnDOT's schedule needs, MnDOT has directed the contractor to install the pipe during winter conditions, which are requiring more effort by the contractor to complete. Essentially, we're working in cold conditions and frozen ground. It's taking them a little more time and effort to be able to dig in that material, in those soils, and also be able to place the pipe in the ground. A minor correction to the business item itself. The policy or legal reference that I have stated there is policy 33. That's the old expenditures policy. That's policy 14-2 is the actual correct policy number that we should have referenced there.
We all knew that already.
I apologize for that, It's my first rodeo, so. So our proposed action this evening is that the Metropolitan Council authorizes an increase in the general manager's delegated construction and contract change order authority for the master utility agreement 21I-069 with the Minnesota Department of Transportation for Interceptor 8560 from $290,104 to $690,104. With that, I'm available for questions.
Questions for Mr. Wedin? Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Whose job was it to figure out how much lead time on ordering the pipe?
That is typically, Mr. Chair and council members, typically the contractor puts together their schedule as far as lead time on ordering materials, tries to get things as quickly as possible, and sometimes things just don't come in on time. Seems to be an industry-wide challenge that everyone's dealing with.
Yes.
Are we looking at expecting longer lead times from our contractors in response to those supply chain challenges, or is this gonna happen more often it's a pretty substantial change.
Yeah, sure is.
Mr. Chair and council members, it certainly is a substantial change. This is something that we in Interceptor Engineering have been aware of and have been focusing on. Part of what we're trying to do is really work with our teams to better understand when materials are going to be available, try to address challenges that may come up with supply chain issues, and really try to give the contractor the time that they need in order to do the work.
Councilmember Stern.
All right, thank you, Chair. I just was wondering, is there any possibility of delay in this work to March or something like that, or what's the issues with delaying it and such?
So,
Please.
Chairman Lindstrom and council members, a lot of these are some of the conversations that we've been having with Minnesota Department of Transportation. So our understanding, working with MnDOT, there are other projects that are dictating when they need to have this one finished. And so there are a lot of other drivers that are pushing them toward advancing the completion of this project, basically meeting their current schedule, getting things wrapped up so that they can open up the project earlier, really necessitating the work during the winter.
Thanks.
And we're still in conversations with MnDOT about the price or who pays for what, is that right?
Mr. Chair, we are still in conversations about the contract price with MnDOT, what the additional costs are going to be. There's still a lot of question about the quantity of those additional costs. Some of those additional costs include some poor soils in the area. And really, until we get through the excavation, until we dig out all the material that we need to and replace the new pipe, we're not going to know what that quantity of material is. The number that we put forth here, we think is worst-case scenario.
Very good. The questions, or is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second. I'm just going to see how long I can hold out and get one of them to say something.
We'd be here all night.
It's Councilmember Wolf. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carries. Thank you. That takes us to our last item for the evening, which is training services supporting MCES core and new hire training programs. Contract 22P268. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
My name is George Scott Bowes. I work under the Operations Support Services Unit in Training and Program Support. I'm presenting this afternoon on business item 2022331 and training service supporting MCS core and new hire training programs, contract 22P268. Mr. Chair, council members, a little history here. We've had a contract in place that is reaching maximum expenditure. This contract would replace that. We work closely with Environmental Health and Safety Department to formulate a training plan for safety topics. And this contract would indeed go to continue those safety training topics for primarily folks in the operations area of environmental services. The training we're talking about happens recurring basis every year. Quarterly, it's in person or instructor-led training. It includes hands-on practice and knowledge and skill assessments to ensure that folks remain safe and good at their jobs. It also is customized. Environmental health and safety with our team works with the training provider to customize the content based on our procedures that we use for safety topics, whether it's confined space, fall protection, other topics such as right to know, et cetera, et cetera. This training has been in place for over the past 5 years. The proposals that the Metropolitan Council authorized the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 22P268 with Midwest Training Associates to provide these training services in an amount not to exceed $555,000. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Have we worked with these folks before, or they're coming back, so they know us and we know them? And,
yes, okay. Mr. Chair and council members, this services have been provided by this particular provider for the last almost 5 years. We've had a contract with them.
Great. I saw Councilmember Sterner, then Zieren, sorry.
I just was wondering, how does the amount of this contract compare to the last 5 years that we've had them?
Yes, it's a good question, Mr. Chair, council members. There has been an increase of approximately 10% on this contract due to inflationary pressures, which I believe were expected.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Councilmember Zieren.
Move the item.
Great. It's been moved
Second.
and seconded, but Councilmember Wolf.
I still had a question.
Yes,
You can
please,
still
go ahead.
have questions
Yeah.
after it's been moved.
I know.
Floor is yours, Councilmember Wolf.
I don't recall ever having something like this come before us? Did it bump over the threshold that now we have to say something?
Yes, Mr. Chair, council members. Yes, precisely. It did bump over the threshold. I think the last contract was let for $405,000
Okay.
over a 5-year period.
And is there a competitive process for this, or is there just only one place that does this?
Yes, there was a competitive Mr. Chair, council members. There was a proposal was advertised on September 15th, 2022. And we received 2 proposals on October 19th, 2022 that were evaluated by 3 panel members, including a member from the Environmental Health and Safety Department, and Midwest Training and Associates was chosen on that competitive basis.
Okay, thank you.
This is where tours, at least for me, tours come in handy, because when you're talking about confined spaces, I can remember like, oh yeah, or heights, or, you know, pools of water, you know, whatever it might be, the.
Water in the.
That's, yeah, I know.
It's a cake. It's a
Lord, I don't want to fall into any of that stuff, but he does. But heavy-duty electrical, right? And all sorts of other, move machines, all sorts of things that you don't want to get wrong.
Yes, Mr.
Because
Chair.
you would be in danger yourself or endanger others.
Yeah, precisely. To your point, arc flash training is another one of the topics covered under this contract. What we call energy control is another one. This has to do with controlling energy. Electrical is one of the energy sources that they're learning to control. We use training mock-ups for them to practice the actual process of logging, taking out, depressurizing, neutralizing energy.
Great, yeah, please.
Mr. Chair, I serve on the council's audit committee, and we typically meet about quarterly. And this afternoon, we had quite a discussion about risk factors, and not just financial risk factors, but a whole host of them. And this is a huge one. You know, the organization invests a lot in its people power. And if we're not watching out for their well-being, not only are those individuals and their families at risk, but the region's at risk. So I really am impressed with this. And although it's never good to have prices go up, when there's a bump and we get to learn more about what's going on, that is a good thing. So thank you very much for the work that you and your colleagues do.
Absolutely, and I was thinking, not just for our employees, but those people that are contractors too. Tim Wedin, you were talking about poor soils, and just thinking about people that are working in those trenches, and if you have poor soils or, really saturated soils, boy, we've seen really sad stories about that not that long ago, this summer in St. Paul, I recall. So if there's no other comments, a motion has been made and seconded. Going once, going twice. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, council members.
You do not have a general manager's report, or would you like to
I have
say
some
a few
comments,
words?
but not an
Yeah, please
actual
go ahead.
report. I can't let the year close without saying another thank you for your leadership and support in 2022. And I think we're really super excited, even more than usual, for 2023, because things are getting a little bit more less pandemic-ish. Holiday parties are on the scene again for gatherings, and so that feels really good. But I think the fact that we did our vision and mission update this year is really already showing more collective energy towards those directions. And we've got a climate change goals that I see a lot of excitement about making things happen with that. We've got the I&I, private property I&I task force that Councilmember Wolf is going to help us with. So there's some really good things that I think are on the horizon for 2023. I don't know how many of you will be back, but we'd love to have all of you because you've been really great to work with. But looking
Well,
forward to
I'll
another.
be back for at least a little bit, because they won't have the new council figured out by January 1st anyway.
That makes two of us, hopefully.
I was saying, if we had a say in this, we could be done with this tonight.
I'll add on to that by saying a couple of weeks ago, we had a really fascinating, interesting, well-received tribal consultation at Shakopee Midwakanton Sioux Nation, where we outlined we outlined 19 capital projects that we have coming up in the next year, in the next couple of years. And we had 3 tribal nations that attended, Shakopee, Prairie Island, and Mille Lacs. And it was just a really interesting back and forth conversation. I know I learned a lot about tribal consultation in general, and hopefully those representatives from those nations learned a thing or two about our projects and could weigh in on those projects. Anything you'd like to add to that? Yeah, it was really very, very positive on a very snowy day. It was sort of a day like today, or if not worse, but we all made it safe and sound. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.